Memory management. So memory management is one of the very significant functionality of the operating system that it performs. So like file management, process management, network management, power. Apart from these, memory management is also very important functions that operating system performs. So the main objective of the memory management is the controlling and the coordinating the computer's main memory. So out of that we'll see what are the functions that we perform in the memory management, and the two main important characteristic we can say or feature we can say is the protection, and one more thing is the sharing. These two things performed by the memory management. So we'll see how protection and sharing is helpful here. Okay, set protection from one area to another area in the memory. So in this lecture we are going to cover background of the memory management, then swiping one technique, memory allocation in the contiguous and non-contiguous form, then one of the very important paging technique of the memory management, and then segmentation. So these things we are going to cover here. So let's begin here. First we can have the recap of the organizations of the computer memory. So we can see here computer memory is classified into the primary memory and the secondary memory. In the secondary memory, these are also called the permanent storage. Here what we do, we store the data here for future accessing purpose, for we can retrieve there. So in that comes hard disk, SSDs, and this CD or DVD. We have the floppy and magnetic. Variety of permanent storage devices are there, we use for that. And here this side we have the primary memory. In that we have further classification. We have the RAM, that is random access memory, and we have the ROM. So this is the ROM, that is read only memory. In that this is also called the non-volatile memory. So whatever CPU the instruction is there here in the ROM, it is written. So as we switch off the system also, next time when we come, the data never clears from this place. Okay, and this comes in the PROM and the EPROM, that is programming read only memory, and erasable programmable read only memory. And the next one is the electrically erasable programmable read only memory. So this is the ROM. So we are not going to discuss, our concern is only the RAM, that is the part of the computer system that we call the main memory. So in that already again it is further classified in static RAM and the dynamic RAM. So memory something like this RAM that we find in our computer system, it looks like here. So these are the chips. Okay, but when we use the memory, then these separate chips we don't consider. We will see the continuous addressing schemes there. The address will be continuous, it will be not broken like chips are here. So it may be the collection of these also. So next we'll see the storage hierarchy of the memory in the computer system. We can see here first one is the register, and here processor or CPU we have in the system. So in that registers are there. So the registers is part of the CPU itself, and it is the fastest memory. Then comes the cache memory, and it resides between the register and the main memory. Then it comes the main memory. Okay, next one we have the SSD. We have the magnetic tapes, magnetic disk that we call the hard disk. We have the optical disk and the magnetic disk. Here come the CD and DVD. Okay, and we have the cassettes kind of things here. So this is the hierarchy that we have. If we see from the top, to the bottom, if you go, so what is happening, the access speed is decreasing, okay, and storage also changing. If you go from top to bottom, the storage space is increasing. If you see up to here, so the increase in the storage capacity you will see here. So we'll see here what is that register we have, and registers can store less than 1 KB, okay, typical size, and implementation technology we use here the CMOS technology, and access time varies between 0.25 to 0.5 nanoseconds, so it's very lesser. So, and bandwidth MB per second, we have the 20,000 to 100,000, and it is managed by the compiler, and it will be backed by the cache memory that is here, you can see here. And if we go back to this cache memory, similarly its storage capacity, we say it will be the greater than 16 MB, and CMOS, this is the SRAM. We have the access time. Access times means we have the CPUs to that cache. If we keep the access the data, how much time it will take, that called the access time. So here we have the 0.5 to 25 nanoseconds, and the transfer rate is, you can see here, bandwidth is 5,000 to 10,000 MB per second. So it's the hardware implementation managed by hardware, and it is backed by the main memory, that is the RAM. We can see here the main memory greater than 16 GB maybe, okay, and this implementation technology is done by the CMOS DRAM, that we call the dynamic RAM. We have the 80 to 250 range of the access time in nanoseconds, and we have the 100 to 1000 to 5000 MB per second transfer, and we have the operating system, which is managed by the operating system, and it is backed by the disk, that we call the hard disk. So similarly, if you go for the disk storage, and this maybe more than 100 GB of data may be there, magnetic tape is magnetic disk is there. Transfer rate, if you say access time, that is the 5,000 nanoseconds, it is there, and the bandwidth is ranges between the 220 to 150 MB per second, and it is managed by the operating system, and this is backed by the tape or the CD. What is meaning of that? We can keep here in the CD or tape this operating system disk data. So like this we can see here the hierarchy, and what is the access speed, and we have seen this mainly 4 types of memory here, that we call the register, cache, main memory, and disk storage in terms of these points. So now we have exactly clear idea about what is memory, what is the permanent memory, and what is the temporary storage memory, and where they actually resides. So we'll see here now one by one. So whenever we are going to run any program can't be run directly from the hard disk or your disk drives. First the program are brought to the main memory, and from main memory the executions happen, the process executes only there. So in this way we can see here. So what is the job of the system is to first bring the processes from the hard disk to the, first you will bring the program from hard disk to the main memory. Okay, so in main memory, from here the execution will start. And if we talk about the CPU can access the data from this main memory only, it cannot access the data from here. So for running the program. So first the program, whatever program is there, it is brought into the main memory. From that the execution, everything is start in the main memory. And this is the place which the CPU can access the directly. So memory unit only sees a stream of addresses. It will look the address, then read requests, okay, or address plus data and the write request. You will see only those things, okay. And register is the closest to the CPU. Register memory, whatever is there, that is very closest to the CPU. And for that, access time from the CPU to this is very less. And roughly, if we say it is a one CPU cycle or one CPU clock. And for main memory, because generally if we say the location, cache will be here, main memory will be here, register will be here inside, R1, R2, whatever. So you can say the positions of these registers, cache memory and main memory. So the cache sits between the main memory and the CPU registers, we can say here. And protection of the memory required to ensure the correct operation. Protection is very important. For that we are going to have the very good discussions over this, so that we can understand what is the protection. So in this way, if we see, if in the beginning what operating the system when the built, in the beginning in the RAM, in the memory that we call the RAM, that was called bare machine. We were calling it is a bare machine. And in this bare machine there was no operating system. There was nothing. It's the designer choice. Okay, it's the person who are going to use. He is free to do these things. Okay, so entire space of memory, it is free for the user. Okay. So there was no such kind of, here manually everything you have to do. You have to open the editor for writing the source code, compilation, linking, loading, execution. Everything was done by the user here manually. So it was a bare machine kind of thing. So designer who was using this system, he was free to choose the memory area where program what to access and what to run. Okay, so bare machine, it was very time taking to, it was not very efficient. Everything we were doing the manually. So after bare machine, the next work that has been done, the designing of this system, and we call it is a resident monitor. So some kind of automated program which was generated, that nowadays we call the operating system, and this was kept in this area. So, and we call it is a system area. So in this system area, what had happened, the monitor program that we call the resident monitor was here, and it was what it was done, it was divided into this area. This area we call the system area, where system program resides, and this left over area, this whatever is there, this was called the user space. It was called the user space, and in this region the user programs resides, user program runs. So in this way what happened, this automation was done. So operating system, in that whatever important task or the part is required, this was kept into the resident monitor area. Okay, and we call the resident monitor, and this runs the this runs into the this system area, during the entire life of the execution time of the machine. So in this way another approach was used and the resident monitor was built. But here what has been done, this thing was protected by some fence register, we call it fence address. Some fence address was kept here so that this can be protected to whatever addresses generated by the CPU. Okay, so it should not cross this area, it should not go to the resident monitor, it must be here. So one fence address concept was done. Whenever CPU generates any address, it will check the address is greater than this fence and it is lying here. Otherwise what will happen, the trap or the problem will happen, and in those cases the program has to terminate. So for that protection, what had happened, some concept was used that we call the fence address, and that was later on given one different name. So this fence register that we call, if we see, if we don't go here in the beginning, if we clearly see the part is here, like we have the, simply we'll see, then we'll go to the a little complex thing. Here operating system is there, we have created one fence address and this will be compared. This comparison will be done so that it should not cross the CPU generated address to the system address. So CPU is there, suppose it has generated some address. If it has generated some address, the address should belong to this area, not this area. Okay, so for that here some comparison has to be done simultaneously here by at the time of accessing the memory, and we call it is a memory, if I say. So for that what had happened, here the fence register was there, fence address. So this fence address is mentioned here. So whenever any address is being generated, we will check whether it is greater than or equal to the fence register, fence address or not. Okay, so if it is true, if it is greater than, then it will have the access to the memory. If it is no, then what will happen, trap will occur and program has to be terminated. Okay, so what is happening, this can be done in two ways. This implementation, this comparison work can be done in two ways. One is the hardware mechanism and second one is the by writing a program, you can say the software mechanism. So what is happening, the fence register, this concept can be done by the software and the programmatic way. So in the programmatic way we can write one program, and this program can be used for checking these whatever or how many number of addresses generated by the CPU, immediately we check by that comparator program. So we can see this is a comparator program. So this implementation is okay, but what happens, this comparator program also has to reside in some here into the memory also. So what it will do, it will also occupy some space. So that will, what it will do, it will also this space can also be used by some process, but this space is now occupied by this program. So and for this also loading and comparison, all those things, the CPU has to spend some CPU cycle for that also. So it looks like a overhead kind of things. So And for that, another approach is the hardware implementation approach that we can do. Here what we can do, whatever you see, here we can put one fence register. What we see? We can put here a fence register, and we can say it is a hardware implementation. So this hardware implementation, what it will do? This will help to compare it directly without keeping any program into the memory. Okay, so we can put one fence register. In this fence register we can put the the fence address. Here it will be fence address. So direct implementation is there. This hardware implementation is faster than this program, and it is saving the CPU cycle, as well as it is also helping to save some memory. So this is a small approach that was implemented for memory protections. So why this protection is required? This is also very important. So whatever operating system programs are running, the user program should not cross here. Okay, otherwise we will make the change in the code and data, so it will make a problem for, and the operating system or system has to stop or terminate the process. So for that, this protection is required. And operating system is it's also a mechanism, it's also an interface which manages, it's also a system software, it manages all the resources. So operating system program can come here, because it has to monitor everything, but user program should not move here. So for that we are doing this fencing by hardware and software ways. So this, if you see this fence register about this, so fence register, so fence register, what we see here, it will store first the fence address. Okay, whenever here the upgradation of the operating system has to be done, means when the operating system has to upgrade, then definitely whatever fence registers value we have set in the beginning, that will definitely change, because we have upgraded the operating system, so operating system size will change. So for that, what we have to do, we have to again we have to reload this fence address into the fence register, and this is not given to the choice to the user, and this is done by the designer itself, or the persons who is privileged for doing that work. So this fence register, fence address in the fence register must be updated. Okay, and this reloading of fence register cannot be done by user. Okay, so this only suitable for the single user program. Okay, where the single programs are there in the system, for that we can have this implementation. This implementation is suitable for that. Operating system, single program is ready for this. Okay, and not suitable for the multiple user programs. So for multiple user programs, we also have some another mechanism that we can do. So in this way, if we see how the multiple programs can be kept here into this, we can run multiple programs in the same single user space. We can see here. So for that, if we see, I am having this. We see this is the memory space. Okay, that is available. So this one is operating system, and here whatever the user space is available like this. So now here, how we can make this for the multi-user? So if it is my hard disk, and then our jobs will be whatever job, suppose job 1, this is job 2, it will be residing into the hard disk. Okay, secondary storage. So from that secondary storage, suppose here in this operating system this entire space is being used by some program. So because this is called the, here what will be there, it will be the user program here. So user program will be here and we call it is a user space, and this is called the system area or here user area. So in this what will happen, suppose now currently one job is there, that is J3, it is running. Okay, so what we can do, if J3 is running, okay, so we can run the multiple programs here that we call the multi-user programs. What we can do, we can swap out this into this storage space, the secondary storage, and then this we call the swap out. We can, one program we can swap it out, and next J2 whatever is there, this J3 you brought here, suppose here now J3, another program now you can swap, that we call the swap in. Now we have swapped in one program here into the main memory, and here now J2, suppose here J2 will come and here J3 is going. Okay, so like this multiple programs we can run here. Okay, so this has helped to make it a multi-user program, but the problem has now, some of the problem more has arisen because of this also. So what will happen, the CPU has to spend some time, so CPU cycle will be spent in the swiping in and swiping out of the process. Okay, so what it will do, it will make the CPU utilization poor. So utilization will be poor here. If the CPU utilization is poor, so the efficiency will decrease. Although we have maintained this multi-user program here, okay, but this is not a permanent solution, the best solution. Okay, but in this we have seen the speed. If we see the disk storage space here, and what is that, the access time, it's very much compared to the others. Okay, so for that the CPU performance will degrade. So what is the another solution? The another solution lies here. One more technique that we can apply here. Here we can keep the operating system in this area. We can make some space reserved for the buffer. Okay, so we have made the buffer 1 and buffer 2. So this buffer 1 and buffer 2 will help to keep the jobs, okay, ready. So suppose job 1 is here, job 2 is this one, okay, and one here user, now here this is the user space, user area. Okay, so here user program will run. So suppose J3 is now running here. So what I will do for that, suppose J1 now want to run here, so I can swap in here J1, and this J3 I can keep here in J2. So what will happen, and this from J1 will be here, then we can bring here. So the movement from this place to buffer to this user space into the RAM, that is main memory, it is very fast compared to this one. So this has a little helped to reduce the time for movement of the jobs in swiping in, swiping out, because this space is this time will be very less, because it is within the memory itself compared to the other hard disk or the secondary storage. So it has speeds up now the whole process. Okay, so in that what had happened now, we can make this thing, we can also make in the operating system, the program is there. So in that program what we can do, we can go for the multi-programming with fixed number of partitions. What we can do? We can go for multi-programming, what we call the multi-programming. This is multi-programming with fixed number of partitions. So we can partition it. Okay. Fixed number of tasks, not partitions. And actually it is related to that also. So in the, we call it as NFT. So now what we can do? We can divide our memory space like this. So what actually we are doing, we are dividing this memory space into the different parts. Suppose we are now fixing this for the operating system, the system area. Now we can divide these available user space into the different partitions of different sizes, but it's the fixed. Okay, so suppose I am making it is a 100 KB and this one I am making it is 60 KB. Okay, now this is a 200 KB space. Okay, partition, and this partition is suppose 90 KB, and here this partition we can say it is a 160 KB. So what is that here? Now we can see here we have the user space only, whatever was there we have partitioned into the different parts. So these parts are having their own sizes. So whenever now programs are coming, the process has to run here. When the program has to be assigned the memory, it will be coming here in these spaces. Okay, so like this different number of programs can reside into the main memory. Okay, now the question comes how to protect the area, okay, of one process to the another, because if one process has crossed the area of others, then what will happen? The program will be interrupted and the program has to terminate. So nobody will cross the area of one to the another. So for that purpose another approach has been used here that we call the like in the previous example we had seen the concept of the fence register. So same fence register concept we will also again here use, but in place of one fence register we will use two fence register here. So one for the, suppose if I say here, so this fence register, if we see this, we call the lower bound register, and another one is here, this will be called the upper bound register. So this is two varieties, upper bound and lower bound. And so for that here how many checks? Here now two checks or comparison now has to be done. Two comparison has to be done for both the registers. So and another name is here, we can see here like here if we say this, we call a first one is the base register, we can say, what we can say, it is a base register. And here we will say, if we are focusing this partition, we will say it is the limit register. We call it is a limit register. I think now it is clear very much. So here the limit register and fence register. So we can say it is a base register, it is a limit register. So this can be implemented if I am allocating the program for this location. So because these registers, they have the pre-information about these partitions, means if I say first partition, second, third, fourth and fifth, if I am going to put my program into the fourth partition, then I know what is the starting address, what is the end address, and it means the limit, and what is the base register. So this comparison, it will be done. If the address falls in that range, this will be treated as a valid address. So in this way, the multiple programs can be run and multiple jobs can be there into the main memory. So this is one implementation that we do. Now the questions comes how to assign the partitions to the different programs. So for that, so program, suppose this is a 80 KB of program. So we'll start here and we'll select the space, okay, it is large enough for P1 to be executed in the partitions. So like this. So for that is we have the method, okay, of selecting these partitions. So for that we have the some algorithm that we call the first one is the first fit one. Another mechanism is the best fit, and the third one is the worst fit. So this is the three ways we assign the partition to the program. So in the first fit, what will happen, the program for whichever programs the partition has to be assigned, so the scanning will be done. As the first, the big enough space for that process has been found, it will be allocated immediately. First fit, okay. So in the next best fit, in the best fit it will scan all the partitions and will choose the best one, which is which the process can be executed there, okay. And another one is the worst fit. So in the worst fit, as from the name it is coming, so it will take the largest area for the allocation of the space to the program. So in the best fit and worst fit, entire scanning of the list happens, okay. But in first fit, it start from the beginning, and when it first gets the large enough space, the immediately the process is allocated the memory, okay. So out of these, best fit and the first fit is considered as the best method. Next one is same thing we see here in the implementation. In another way we can say the base register and limit register. So this pair we have discussed this already. Operating system, same here, this is base register, this is the limit register. So you can see here, so base register is the 300440 base, and this is the limit. Limit means the length, okay. So and we can get by subtracting 420940 to this one, so you will get this value. So it is the length. So like this we make the partitions, okay. So you can see it's not the same size partitions. These are being the different partitions, okay, of different sizes, okay. But it is fixed, and this is maintained by the a list is maintained, how many number of partitions are there, what are the starting and ending address for them, okay, and which one is free and which is not free. All those things is done here. So CPU must check every memory access generated by, okay, generated in user mode to be sure it is between the base and the limit for that user. Otherwise the program will not function, it will be terminated. So same thing, this implementation can be done for the two registers also. The comparison, two comparison has to be done here. You can see here the CPU address, CPU generates the address, and generally we call it is a logical address or virtual address. So this address, it will be checked for the base. So because we'll say whether it is falling in that range or not, it will be checked for the base, and after that it will be checked whether it is greater if it has passed the criteria of the base register. Suppose I am going to check 1 2 3 4 5. So if I am going to check the second partitions, so I will check the base register for that. If it is greater, okay, will allow, it will come here. Okay, now the comparison not yet completed. Again, what we will do, the limit and plus base register, whatever value is there, it will be checked here now. And if it is less than that limit, means this range. Okay, if address is falling between this one, so what we will say, will allow that process that address to access that memory locations, else we will not. Otherwise, in any of the conditions false, the trap to the operating system monitor will happen, addressing error will give. Okay, so after that, okay, if everything is fine, the process will continue.